And without further ado, please welcome Johnny Randolph.
It was March 12th of 2014, the day that I was scheduled to give my icebreaker speech. Before the meeting, I was sweating profusely. My legs trembled violently, and I seriously considered canceling the speech, but then pulled myself together. I pushed all the doubt out of my mind, and when the Toastmaster announced my name, I George Jefferson strolled to the front of the room, and in pure delight, I bombed. I was awful. As I listened to the evaluator's 2.5-minute evaluation, when he finished, I walked out of the room thinking I was the best speaker in the world. Yes, I made some mistakes. A lot of them. But the positivity and the feedback from that evaluation helped convince me that I can grow into an outstanding speaker. 5 months later, I entered my first speech contest, the humorous speech contest. To my astonishment, I won first place at the club level. I moved on to the area and won first place at the area. I finished my speaker journey that year by placing 3rd in the division. In a matter of 5 months, I had transformed from a verbal Neanderthal to literally a championship speaker. And I attribute 100% of that success to the Toastmasters program and receiving a series of effective evaluations. Good afternoon, everybody. And welcome to the art of an effective evaluation. As Mr. Culver here said, my name is Johnny Randolph. I'm proud to say that I am the president of Toastmasters, a club that meets here in Polaris every Tuesday. As I look out, I see that we have some guests who are non-Toastmasters. I want to say thank you for coming out. Today we're going to deviate a little bit from our standard meeting, but I welcome you to come back next week. As I also look out, I see some Toastmasters from other clubs, Polaris and Team and SOAR and Time to Toast. This makes me happy because I believe when Toastmasters convene together, it makes all of us better, and it just helps to make us stronger. So everyone, please, thank you for coming out. This meeting is going to be a collaborative experience, meaning if you have any questions or any thoughts that you want to add, please feel free to do so, as I will be asking questions of you. And the expectation is that you will participate. If that sounds okay with you, let me hear you say, heck yeah. Heck yeah. All right, that's what I want to hear. By a quick show of hands, how many of you have ever received an evaluation in Toastmasters? Okay, most of the room. Now, another quick show of hands, how many of you have ever received a great evaluation in Toastmasters or heard a great evaluation in Toastmasters? Okay, so come over here. Everybody, this is Kim Horn. Hi, Kim. Okay, okay. Now, was that great evaluation, was the evaluator positive?
Yes.
Okay. Did it motivate you to want to give additional speeches in Toastmasters? Did they provide methods for you to improve?
Yes.
Okay? Everybody, please give it up for Ms. Kim Horn. Now, based on Kim's answer, what you already know about Toastmasters, and my little anecdote at the beginning of the session, let me know, would you agree that an evaluation can help a speaker to improve?
Yes. Yes.
Okay? And if you say yes, you're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, The only reason to ever give an evaluation is to help the speaker improve. It is not to get credit in pathways or in the legacy system. It's not even because your president or your Toastmaster of the day asked you to give an evaluation. Now, of course, if you want to get credit in pathways or the legacy system, please do it. And of course, help out your club if your president or the Toastmaster of the day asked you to do it. But the moment you accept responsibility to be an evaluator, your priorities should shift to helping the speaker improve. And that, in essence, is what it means to conduct an effective evaluation. It is to help another speaker get better. Now, there are benefits to being an evaluator. Of course, we said that it benefits the speaker because it helps them improve, but the evaluator and the club benefits as well. Evaluators benefit from an effective evaluation because it builds interpersonal relationship skills. It develops listening skills, and it also helps to build impromptu listening skills. If you think about it, an evaluation is a table topic. A member will give a speech, and then the evaluator has approximately 10 minutes to develop a 2 to 3 minute speech based on how well the speaker performed. It is a table topic. Speakers benefit from an evaluation as well. Speakers gain a timely and powerful learning aid. Toastmasters, unlike here at J.P. Morgan Chase, we don't have to wait till the end of the year or mid-year to find out how well we've done. The feedback is prompt and it's immediate. It is also given by somebody who wants to build better speaking skills. Effective evaluations also builds self-esteem. I love coming to my Toastmasters meeting, here at Toast What Matters or Polaris or visiting any of the clubs. It helps me to invigorate and energize me to take on the rest of my week. Now, whenever I receive an effective evaluation, when I'm done, I walk out of that door, through the halls like, I'm bad, I know, I'm a great speaker, I'm good, I'm great. It just helps to foster a sense of accomplishment. Now, effective evaluations produce stronger speakers. Stronger speakers produce stronger clubs. Your club will benefit from an effective evaluation because it contributes to a high standard of excellence. The evaluator becomes a role model, not just for the speaker, but for anybody in attendance that day. And effective evaluations help convert guests into members and retain membership retention. Some of you may have heard me in the past say this whenever I give an evaluation, but an effective evaluation is a Toastmasters superpower. It helps strengthen everybody in our Toastmasters community. Now, giving an evaluation is about more than giving your opinion on how well a speaker performed. As evaluators, our words have merit. A few well-chosen words or a few poorly chosen words can make the difference in a speaker remaining a member permanently or never coming back at all. I have seen overly harsh evaluations cause a person to never come back. And if they don't come back, do we help them? Therefore, we failed in our objectives as an evaluator. Now, I got a question. I want you all to let me know. Would you agree with me when I say that a lot of people, perhaps majority of people, join Toastmasters because they want to receive or they want to become a better speaker?
Yes.
That agree? Okay. And we've already said that the only reason to give an evaluation is what? Thank Thank you for listening. An evaluation can be effective if it doesn't help a speaker to improve. Speakers can improve if they don't receive an effective evaluation. They work in tandem. It is a partnership. Now, an evaluator has three primary roles. An evaluator is a motivator, a facilitator, and a counselor. As evaluators, it is our role to help motivate our speakers. One of the best ways or most effective ways that I've found to motivate a speaker is to recognize their efforts and accomplishments. For example, if a speaker, let's say they've given their first two speeches and they're remaining behind the lectern, and then the evaluator recommends that the speaker step away from the lectern. On their next speech, the speaker comes out here and is in front of everybody. If I am that evaluator, I am going to let them know the journey that they've taken to improve. I might say something to the effect of, I've noticed in your last couple of speeches, you stood behind the lectern. And one of your goals from your evaluator was to step away. Congratulations on doing that. You did an excellent job, and I look forward to you growing some more. We all love compliments. If we go outside, back to our jobs, and our boss tells us, great job on that project, how's that going to make you feel? Is it going to make you want to go out and do another project? You tell your children, hey, Jimmy, if they took their grade up from a low grade to a B or an A, you're going to tell them, great job. I knew that you could do it. So giving compliments and recognizing someone's effort and accomplishments is a great way to motivate a speaker. So how many of you have given evaluations in Toastmasters? Okay, so I've noticed a lot of overlap between giving and received. I'd like to hear from some of you all. What are some ways that you think or you've seen is effective to help motivate a speaker to give a better speech? Come on, somebody. Nobody?
Find out ahead of time.
Okay, I'll come. What'd you say, Dave?
Find out ahead of time what they're trying to work on for that speech.
Absolutely, and that's something that we're going to talk about in greater detail. How do you help somebody if you don't know what they're doing? So meeting with them before the speech is a great way to motivate them. And it goes back to one of the benefits, you're building a personal relationship. Deborah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things I was gonna say. But then the other thing I was gonna say is find out from them what they want help with, what they need to
What are their
evaluate.
goals?
Right.
Why
What
are they
need to
here?
evaluate.
Because everybody came in here for a reason. So if you want to help them, find out specifically, why are you here? I love it. I love it. Anybody else? Come on. Over here.
I would say, and attending as regularly as you can helps you get to know club members and.
Okay. Attend meetings regularly. So you get, as an evaluator, you get to see the other speeches that they've done, right? So you can also comment on their success and the amount of progress that they've made over time. Anybody else? Okay, we'll go to Stephanie, and then we'll come right back here.
I want an evaluator, and I want something I feel like I can walk away from the meeting and actually put into use. I want like that constructive feedback versus necessarily opinionated, if that makes sense.
So you want a method for improvement, something to really help. Okay, I like it, right here.
Always finish on the positive.
Always finish on a positive. The last memory that you want a speaker to have when they leave is on a positive note. Rajiv.
Be very specific on what you're giving feedback about.
We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Be specific, because if you're not specific, you can confuse the speaker. If you're giving just random, loosey-goosey advice, you can confuse the speaker. I hope you guys wrote all of these things down, because these are some very effective tools. And as you've demonstrated, an evaluator can be a very strong force for motivating speakers. Now, the next role of a speaker is a facilitator. In Toastmasters, we are responsible for facilitating methods of improvement. I want to say this. We do not critique speakers. We conduct evaluations. Now, the difference between a critique and an evaluation is important in order for an evaluator to be specific. Many people always think negatively about a critique. How many of you have ever heard of 2 thumbs up? Nobody? Okay. Have you ever eaten maybe at a 5-star restaurant for a special occasion? Those are critiques. 2 thumbs up, 5 stars, those are critiques. A critique is simply the identification of a list of strengths or the identification of a list of weaknesses or mix or match. An example of a critique could be, Dan, you're a great speaker. It's a critique. Brian Dietz, you have a great sense of humor. Those are critiques. You don't think so, Brian? I'll see you speak. You got a great sense of humor. A critique of a weakness could be, Johnny, you just stood like this with your arms folded for the full length of the speech. That's a critique. It's vague. Doesn't really provide the feedback that Lisa was talking about. So in Toastmasters, we conduct an evaluation. In evaluation, we want to identify the strengths of a speaker, but it's all about the details. We want to be as specific as possible. So if we're identifying a strength, instead of me just saying, Brian Dietz, you've got a great sense of humor, I might add, Brian, I really enjoyed the joke that you told about when you and your brother went on a camping trip. It helped me to see the sibling rivalry between you two, and it also illustrated the enormous amount of affection that the two of you share for each other. We identified the strength, what it was, and how it impacted us. Do you all think that that would be more beneficial than just saying, Brian, you have a great sense of humor? So we're adding the details. In an evaluation, I cannot stress this enough. In an evaluation, we must identify a weakness, or a point to grow, or as Chase calls them, opportunities. Right? We have to do it because, as we said, most people come into Toastmasters to improve their speaking. If we do not provide those opportunities, then the speaker cannot grow. But whenever we provide an opportunity, we must facilitate a method for improvement. If we do not provide a method for improvement, it can confuse the speaker and cause them to do something that's worse than what was originally identified. For example, I knew a speaker. When they were speaking, they had a lot of excessive hand movements. They almost had that whole John Travolta thing, you remember, from Pulp Fiction? It was very confusing. When the evaluator came up, he rightfully identified that the hand gestures were a distraction. Well, the next time the speaker spoke, they stood just like this for the entirety of the meeting. They didn't move their hands, but it was very distracting, or even worse, because they're just standing like this and these awkward motions. That speaker didn't fail. His evaluator failed him because he didn't provide a method for improvement. Mr. Kohler, if somebody would have been moving their hands all like this, what might a distinguished Toastmaster such as yourself would have said?
I would have acknowledged that the hand movements were a distraction,
Mhm.
And then one of the lines that I like to use, and I'm sure people have heard me say, let your hands relax at your side. They will know when to speak.
Mm,
Do not get them up all the time, but let them relax. They'll know when to talk.
absolutely. Do you all think that that is better than your hands were just a distraction? So whenever, in an evaluation, whenever we identify those weaknesses or opportunities, we must provide a method for improvement. I've got a couple of sentences here. And I'd like to get a volunteer to read one, or read each one, and then you tell me if it is an evaluation or a critique. Does anybody want to volunteer to read the first one? We got all these Toastmasters in here. Okay, we'll go right here, and then we'll go together. So,
You are a great speaker. I always look forward to coming to meetings when you are on the agenda.
is that a critique or an evaluation? Absolutely. Okay, Deborah, can you read the second one right here?
You are pacing a lot during your speech.
Is that a critique or an evaluation? All right. Can I get another volunteer? All right, Cheryl? Can you see it?
I observed you lowered your head throughout the speech. I recommend keeping your head raised. This will help you keep eye contact with your audience.
Critique or an evaluation? All right. Got another volunteer. All right, go.
I loved your use of vocal variety. The way you elevated your volume at the end of the story really helped me to understand your excitement.
All right, critique or evaluation? Another volunteer. Critique.
I noticed your use of filler words on multiple occasions. I suggest slowing the speed of your delivery down a little, and when you lose your train of thought, instead of saying just suppose.
Critique or evaluation? All right. One more. We got one more. I'll do it. I could barely hear you when I sat in the front, so I doubt the people in the back could hear you either. Critique or an evaluation? Critique. Absolutely. Anybody want to turn it into an evaluation? Any recommendations? Somebody, come on. Give me a thought. How can we turn this sentence into an evaluation?
Try to project, tell them to project to the end.
I recommend that you project your voice better. Anybody else? How about you speak from your diaphragm with your legs standing shoulders length apart? This will help you project to the back of the room. But this is just to illustrate that whenever we do an evaluation, we want to be specific, we want to be complimentary, and we want to provide methods for improvement. Now, the final role of an evaluator is a counselor. Oh, y'all like the picture? A counselor. This is the role that is used the least frequent in the roles of an evaluator. A counselor is reserved for those people who may be new or painfully shy. You know, the type of people that this is their first time speaking and they don't like public speaking, but they want to get better at it. So instead of giving them a harsh evaluation or even a normal evaluation, you want to motivate them. You want to encourage them. You want to have a lot of those positive feelings. You also still want to have a method for improvement because they can't grow. But a simple method for improvement could be, instead of just reading your notes, I recommend you take your notes on a paper and transfer them over to flashcards. This will help you make the transition from each topic. So just remember, we need to do anything that we can to help the speaker improve. All right? Now, we've talked about a lot. We've talked about why somebody should ever give an evaluation to Toastmasters, which is... Thank you. We've also talked about the benefits in Toastmasters, how it benefits the speaker, the evaluator, and the club. We've talked about the roles of an evaluator. We want to motivate, facilitate, and be a counselor. Now we're going to explore 5 tips to help you become an effective evaluator. Now this isn't limited to these 5 steps. There's more of them. As a matter of fact, this workshop could be conducted for 2.5 hours. There's so much information. And the reason that I know this is because I conducted a 2.5-hour workshop. But the 5 ways that we can become a better speaker is to show the speaker that you care. You also want to suit your evaluation to the speaker. You want to learn the speaker's objectives, that's what Dave and Deborah was talking about. Personalize your language and show the speaker how to improve. To show the speaker that you care, whenever we are conducting an evaluation, it is not a good time to get up there and brag about how smart you are, or brag about how much experience you have. Because this can make the speaker think that you are more interested in additional stage time than helping them improve. And as we've already said, as evaluators, we're a motivator, we're a counselor. Whenever we evaluate somebody, we want to add some energy and positivity into our voice. If I said, you guys have been a great class, anybody gonna believe me? No. So whenever we address our speaker, good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters, Lisa, you show that you care. Make eye contact with the speaker. Don't be afraid to use the speaker's name. Remember, this is personal. The speaker has entrusted their improvement in you. Make them feel appreciated. Showing that you care means being honest. Whenever we evaluate, as we said earlier, we have to identify those methods for improvement. If we do not, the speaker cannot grow, the speaker cannot learn, the speaker would never get better. But when we identify those methods of improvement, it does not give you a license to act like Simon Cowell from American Idol. You should not be disrespectful or curt or mean or anything like that. Or even that brutal honesty like, I just told it like it was. No, that is not what we do when we give an evaluation. When you give an evaluation, whenever you're identifying those weaknesses, use compassion, use empathy, use understanding. And whenever you are giving an evaluation and you're identifying those strengths, be sincere and authentic. Don't say that everything is great when everything isn't great. Don't tell the guy who's standing like this, oh, you made great use of your space. No, he didn't. He's not going to improve that way. So we want to be sincere and authentic, be compassionate and considerate. An evaluation is not a one-size-fits-all process, because what works for Derek back there, what works for Shree, it may not work for me. We should learn to adjust our evaluation style to fit the speaker. For example, right now, there is somebody, Prajeet, who is training to be the world champion of public speaking next year. I know he is. And to get to that level, he needs a very specific, painfully detailed, and candid evaluation. Prajeet, or somebody like him, they are not sensitive or have a very thin skin because they know what's required to get to that next level. In contrast, you have a speaker that's just trying to make it through these 5 to 7 minutes without passing out. Now, what do you think would happen if the evaluator applied that same level of intensity to somebody that's just trying to survive these 5 to 7 minutes as they did Prajeet over here, who's going to be the world champion of public speaking next year? What do you think is going to happen to this person? Oh, God, they're not coming back. And if it's a corporate club, they might report you. And vice versa. If I come to Prajit and I'm like, oh, you're such a great speaker. You did this so well. He's like, I already know I'm a great speaker. I don't need you to tell me these things. So whenever we do an evaluation, we want to adjust our speaking styles to fit the speaker. That is a way to help them grow. And a great way to do that is to learn the speaker's objectives. What's a great way to learn the speaker's objectives? That's it. We're Toastmasters, so we are used to talking to people. You want to learn the speaker's objectives. I would recommend that if it's a person who you've never really evaluated before, or you've never really seen them before, I would advise you to take some time and schedule a meeting with them about 2 to 3 days before the speech. And during that speech, you want to ask them, what do you think are your strengths and weaknesses? You want to ask them, why are you doing this project? What are your objectives with this project? And also ask them, what are their personal objectives? Because sometimes the objectives in the project and the objectives in their personal life, they don't overlap. So you want to find this information out. Now, if it's a person that you've heard speak multiple times and you've evaluated them multiple times, you may not need to meet with them 30 minutes or 2 to 3 days before them. Right before the meeting could work, or as you're coming into the meeting. But you still want to get a feel for what they're looking for in this objective. I know a lot of new people are intimidated when they have to evaluate a very experienced speaker. You know, a speaker like Prajit or David or Brian, who they win all the contests, they go to all the meetings, like they're just really talented speakers. And you as a person who's only evaluated maybe once or twice, or maybe spoken once or twice, it can be very intimidating trying to evaluate them. Because you're thinking to yourself, what can little old me do to help them? Meeting with your meeting with your speaker in advance helps to mitigate that intimidation. Because speakers like Brian and David, Derek back there, they want effective evaluations just as well as you do. They have goals just the same as you do. And also, sometimes in clubs, we've evaluated people so many times. Dave and Derek have been evaluating me for 4 years. I've been evaluating them for 4 years. It is very possible that I missed something because I've become so used to how they speak. You, as a new evaluator, can add a fresh and a new perspective to help the speaker grow. It is very advantageous for any speaker to meet with their evaluator before giving a speech. As evaluators, we are not know-it-alls. We cannot be disputed. An evaluation is subjective in nature. So we want to personalize our language. About personalizing our language, we should refrain from using statements such as, you need to, you should, you better, you phrases, because we're adults. And that can come across as being authoritative. It actually, to me, sounds like when I was a kid and my mother was like, you better have your behind in here by the time the street lights are on. Adults do not like to be spoken to that way. Instead of using you statements, try I and my statements. I recommend. I suggest. I would like to see this. My thoughts on the matter were. My perspective. Those are the types of language. Now, I know we've got some evaluators in here, so what are some I or my statements that some of you might have used? Anybody? Anybody?
I observed.
I observed. I liked when. Anybody else?
My personal opinion.
My personal opinion. I love it. Dave, I know you got one.
I was heading with my personal opinion.
Brian, you a district champion evaluator. What are your thoughts? What are I phrases you might have used?
What I heard Johnny say.
I love it. I love it. That's the one y'all should write down. What I heard Johnny say. But do you get the point? We want to use my and I statements. That helps personalize what it is that we're trying to express. And it doesn't have that harsh attitude or appliance towards what the speaker is trying to do. The final phrase is to show the speaker how to improve. And we talked about this a little bit with the facilitator, with the facilitating, if it is an evaluation or a critique. When we are evaluating people, we should focus more on what they can do to improve instead of what they're not doing. So instead of saying, you remain still for the full length of the speech, you would say, I would recommend you move with purpose. You see the difference? You're talking about what they can do to improve. Instead of saying, you use too many filler words, I would recommend you slow down a little bit. And that's being more positive. We're leading them into the right direction. Because as we said, the role of a speaker is a motivator, a facilitator, and a counselor. We want to help them as much as we can. Evaluations should be positive. The common method that we talk about is the sandwich approach. You're positive, methods for improvement, then you end it with being positive as well. I would recommend 2 to 3 positive or strengths that a speaker has. Because this is building them up, this is motivating them, this is having them to come back. And then we also want to identify those weaknesses, provide those methods for improvement, 1 to 2. On a stretch, if you've spoken to that person, maybe 3, but 1 to 2 is sufficient. Any more than that, any more than 3 really makes the speaker feel like you're beating up on them. Johnny, you were standing still, you didn't move, you talked too fast, like you just coming at me. I'm like, slow down, I'm not coming back to this meeting because you people are mean. And then you want to end it on a positive note, or something that I've observed that Dave does really well. He always challenges the speaker to achieve that goal that he's identified. I challenge you to practice a little more. I challenge you to step out a little more. I challenge you to be a little more prepared. Try sometimes to end with a challenge to motivate the speaker to come back. I did this session a few months ago, and a tool that I thought that was really cool, it was from, I forget his name, but they said the first 2 items that they do are really positive. They go 1 weakness or maybe 2 weakness, and then the 3rd thing is the best thing that the speaker did. So that way when the speaker leaves, the last thing that they hear is a positive thing of their most valuable strengths. So about 2, and then the strongest aspect of the speech. I thought that was an interesting spin on how to do an evaluation. Right there, those are the top 5 reasons, or the top 5 ways that we can conduct an evaluation. I've got a video here that I want us to watch, and after we watch it, we're going to talk about some of the results. So just give me 1 second here.
Hello, welcome to my Toastmasters Club, the Think and Speak. We're about to see a portion of Michael's speech telling a story that won't put them to sleep. Michael is sharing his researching and presenting project. He's asked his evaluators to pay close attention to the way he uses his hands. He's identified gestures as one of the areas he most needed to improve in his last speech. Let's watch Michael's speech. After he finishes, we'll examine how his evaluators present their observations.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. How many of you have ever had this happen? You're sharing a story with friends, family, or teammates. You're lost in your own narration, thinking about what you're going to say next, when suddenly you notice that people are falling asleep, fidgeting, staring off into space. Your listeners are bored or disinterested, and you're not sure how you lost their attention. Now, there's no need to raise hands, because I'm sure that this is an experience that most of us have had at one point or another. In fact, an experience like this may be what prompted some of us to join Toastmasters. That's why I want to share with you some time-tested professional techniques that can help all of us become more effective storytellers. Employing these tricks can make you more engaging and give your story flair. Thank you.
Now that Michael has given his speech, he'll hear from his evaluators. As you listen to them share, consider everything you know about effective evaluations and positive feedback. Ask yourself if they're following the guidelines you've learned.
Michael, I really enjoyed listening to your speech. You did a good job and kept everyone engaged. Storytelling is very important, and you gave us some great insight on how to tell stories better. Thank you.
All right, so what do we think about that evaluation? Was it effective? Why do we think it was ineffective?
It wasn't specific.
It wasn't specific. Anything else?
No suggestions.
No suggestions or follow-up. It was quick. It was like 20 seconds. Yes, okay.
Thank you.
This evaluation was ineffective because the evaluator did not reinforce specific positive behaviors, focus on project competencies, or highlight areas for improvement. Let's listen to another evaluator and see if she is able to give Michael a stronger evaluation.
First off, I want to say that this was a very informative speech. You had good eye contact and fit all the important information in the right time frame. With that said, I definitely see areas where you need to improve. You spend a lot of time behind the podium. Standing behind the podium too much makes you appear as if you are nervous and uncomfortable. You don't want to look uncomfortable, so make sure you move around more. Another thing you did that showed you were nervous was talking too fast. Next time you give a speech, make sure you focus on your speed and pacing so you don't rush through your speech. Thank you again for speaking today.
Effective or ineffective?
Ineffective.
Right. She's so mean. Everything is you. There was not a lot of positivity in that. Anything else you see that was ineffective?
Well, she made the assumption that he's nervous, just by the way she phrased it, instead of saying, I observed this, which could be a sign that you're nervous.
And she could have made a recommendation then of how to fix that, as opposed to assuming
So
he was nervous.
he's telling you he's nervous, maybe he wasn't.
Maybe he was,
Just
right.
That's might be something.
Absolutely. Anybody got anything else?
She didn't address it by name.
She didn't
She
address
did not address
it
it
by
by
name.
name and starts with positive and ends with the positive. She jumped right into the evaluation.
And at the beginning of the video, he said one of his areas of improvement was his hands. She never mentioned that. All that other stuff she mentioned was negative, and she never mentioned the thing that he wanted to work on. So, yeah, I'd have to agree. It's not very effective at all.
While this evaluator did highlight some areas for improvement, her evaluation was ineffective. She did not use I statements or phrase her feedback in a positive manner. Additionally, she did not address the topics the speaker requested or include specific examples from the speech. Let's listen to one more evaluator and see how he evaluates Michael's speech.
Thank you for sharing your research with us, Michael. That was a well-delivered speech, and I noticed several areas where you have improved since your last speech. The thing that stood out to me the most during your presentation was the use of hand gestures. Based on our conversation before the meeting, I know that this was an area you were specifically focused on. I could really tell you've been practicing this. I thought it was particularly effective the way you used your hands to emphasize your opening story about listeners who are bored and disengaged. It really helped pull me into the speech. I know our grammarian was keeping count, but I also noticed that the number of ums you used was much less in this speech than in your last. Good work. Since this is a research project, one of the goals is to use credible sources and share it with your audience. I like the way that you did this with your final few tips, but I also noticed that you had no experts credited for your first tip. It would have been helpful for the audience to know where this tip came from or why you weren't able to credit a specific person. I also noticed that you spoke a bit fast. I noticed this specifically during your transitions. This was a time where I was hoping you would slow down a bit to help me go from one thought to the next. I felt a bit rushed. Pacing might be a good area to focus on when preparing for your next speech. I liked the way you crafted smooth, clear transitions. This helped me follow the flow of your speech. I thought it was particularly effective the way you summed up your previous tips while transitioning into your final tip. To summarize, I was very impressed by your speech. I saw a great deal of improvement. I also see a potential for continued growth as you focus on things like pacing. Use your strength in providing quality content by sharing all your sources with your audience. And keep up the good work on using hand gestures and a great variety in your vocabulary. I look forward to hearing more excellent speeches from you in the near future.
All right, so what do we think? Effective or ineffective? Why do we think it was effective?
Well, look at him.
Very specific. He also touched on those things that the speaker wanted to. Hand movements. I like the fact that you credited your sources. Those things. It was very specific. What else? What were we saying?
I said, look at him and Michael.
Yeah, Michael looks happy, right? On any of those other evaluations, Michael did not look happy at all. So anything else? Anything else? Why do we think this was effective?
Well, he gave opportunities and told him how he could achieve those.
Ooh, yes, right here. He was very positive. He was positive. He get a good balance of positive and methods of improvement. Anything else?
They met prior.
Huh?
They met prior together to go
Yes,
over.
yes. So yes, I definitely agree with you.
This final evaluator did a great job encouraging and affirming Michael while also offering helpful insights he can apply to his next speech. Let's review what he did well. As we've just seen, an effective evaluator will provide a full evaluation that is 2 to 3 minutes long. Use I statements that focus on observed behaviors, give specific examples from the speech to support feedback, provide positive, encouraging feedback rather than advice, reference the speaker's goals and the evaluation criteria, highlight the speaker's strong points, and conclude with a summary that affirms the speaker. That's the end of our evaluations for today. Thank you for visiting the Think and Speak Toastmasters Club and joining us for Michael's speech.
Well, we're going to conclude this. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out. I hope you should appreciate it.
Thank you, Johnny.